Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Today is May 3rd. You are at the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors meeting. If everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Let me call the meeting to order. If we'd stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then please remain standing for our invocation by Pastor Jeffrey Woods from First Christian Church.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, sometimes the work we do is not glamorous, but must be carried out nonetheless with all diligence, thoughtfulness, and care. With this in mind, I thank you for our county board chair and supervisors, along with county council, CEO, and staff, faithfully gathered once again to consider and carry out the business of our county, committed to caring for our needs as a wider community. Would you guide them and give them wisdom in the decisions that they make this morning? While much has been tucked away in the consent calendar or will be deferred to future meetings, there is still plenty that deserves our appreciation and gratitude. And so I thank you this morning. I thank you for Wendy Silva, whose work as Director of Stanislaus Regional 911 has significantly contributed to the safety and well-being of the people of our county. Thank you for those who care for the quality of our air. Thank you as well for those who serve faithfully and compassionately in our mental health and related departments, increasingly needed in the face of added mental health challenges brought on by COVID-related restrictions, illnesses, and financial strains. May our awareness be such this month that those in need of help would be encouraged and enabled to connect with the services provided by both our county and other mental health professionals and providers. Thank you for a month set aside to promote awareness of the contribution of older members of our society, like Jane Shaw, Jeff Lorenzi, Raymond Arthur Nipper, Jenny Knoyer, and Rosalie Hurst, enriching the lives of so many among us who might otherwise be sidelined, left homeless, or hungry, or alienated. Thank you for their example and the inspiration they and others offer us. As May is also Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, I thank you for those of Asian American and Pacific Islander heritage among us who have contributed for so long and continue to contribute to the well-being of all of us who call Stanislaus County home. Thank you as well for the social safety networks like CalFresh and other agencies and organizations who offer help, assistance, and hope to many and whose work we gratefully acknowledge today. And thank you for the additional recognition and remuneration for those that will be given to those in our county who help others connect by using their bilingual and management skills. Finally, I thank you for the staff and department heads who serve throughout our county. Would you encourage them and give them wisdom, discernment, and strength as they seek to carry out the decisions that will be made this morning? For I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pastor Woods, thank you very much. That was great. Very good prayer. I think we'll need to have you do the State of the County address. Okay, we're going to move on to our first presentation here today, and it's accommodation for Director of Stanislaus Regional 911, Wendy Silva. And upon her retirement, I think we're going to have Wendy come up here, please.
All right, good morning.
It's a secret handshake. You need to get through that over there. And our CEO, Jody Hayes, is going to do the presentation here.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Good morning, members of the board, members of the public. Thank you all very, very much for being here. And Pastor, I want to thank you for that wonderful invocation to start our morning. We're going to get you a county application on the way out the door because you certainly paid attention to the county's business. Thank you. It really, really is my privilege to recognize and commend Wendy Silva upon her retirement from the Director of Emergency Dispatch here in Stanislaus County. Wendy has not just been a colleague for many, many years, but a friend as well. So I'll try to get through this the best that I can. So on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, community members, and county leadership, I wish to acknowledge and recognize Ms. Wendy Silva for her outstanding service to Stanislaus Regional 911. After a career of over 25 years of combined service with public safety dispatch in our community, including the last 13 years serving key roles on the SR 911 leadership team, Wendy retired from public service last month on April 13th. Wendy's passion for helping those in need started very early, with initial stints as a lifeguard, as well as working with community-based organizations providing social services to adults in our community. After completing her degree in sociology from California State University, Stanislaus, Wendy found her calling, no pun intended, as a dispatch trainee with the Stanislaus Regional Dispatch Agency, or SR 911. It's a little early in the morning for dispatch jokes, but I tried to sneak one in there for you, Wendy. There are 3 dispatchers out there that got it. As part of these presentations, I get the opportunity to walk down memory lane and review personnel files to learn more about someone's career and the steps they took along the way. Like the fact that Wendy was very proud to be a licensed amateur radio operator when she completed her her first application with the county. Okay. But one thing really sticks out more than any in reviewing Wendy's file, and that is just the sheer number of commendations she has received throughout her career for her direct support and serving our community during critical public safety incidents. Her personnel file is like an encyclopedia of some of the most critical law enforcement and fire events we have encountered in our community over the last 20 years. It turns out Wendy was directly involved in many of those events, serving as an essential connection between members of the public and first responders who were called in to help. With a little over 5 years on the radio, Wendy was identified for her excellent work and started training other dispatchers as a communications training officer. About 5 years later, she was promoted to her first leadership position as a shift manager. And again, 5 years later, she was promoted to deputy director. After filling in as an interim on 2 occasions, Wendy Silva was named Director of Stanislaus Regional 911 in January of 2019. From trainee to dispatcher, shift manager, deputy director, and finally director, Wendy Silva served our community with distinction, touching the lives of tens of thousands of our residents in their most challenging moments. Everyone who has carried the title of 911 dispatcher joins a unique club of individuals willing to shoulder the very direct and heartfelt needs of our community every day they come to work, no matter how many times the phone rings. We cannot thank our dispatchers enough for their dedicated service, and that includes the stellar career of Wendy Silva. I'm going to wrap up by sharing a comment I read from one of Wendy's supervisors early in her career. The supervisor had been listening to radio traffic on the MPD channel and recognized Wendy handling some very difficult moments on the radio that night and documented the following in her file. I enjoy listening to Wendy work on the radio, and the MPD radio in particular. She shows us all what dispatching can and should be. I can't think of any better words to sum up a wonderful career in public service. Wendy, on behalf of everyone in this audience and our entire community, thank you once again, and congratulations on your very, very well-deserved retirement. We're going to give you a chance to talk in just a minute, but we're going to give you a couple of more things here real quick. So we just want you to know that we've got this wonderful resolution on behalf of the Board of Supervisors for you. And then, Manny, would you do the honors of bestowing the traditional clock? For some reason, we give all of our retiring department heads a clock when they no longer have to worry about what time it is. But there you go. Okay, Wendy, it's your turn. I'll take those off your hands, and we'll switch.
Well, thank you very, very much. This is truly an honor. I first and foremost need to thank my folks for instilling faith and value and belief in God, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them and the hard work and dedication we as a family. And as you can, this is just a sliver of my family, so I have a great life. My husband, my biggest fan, you were always there for me, pushed me to be something I never saw in myself, and that was just, I definitely contribute my success to my husband and my family. And then my daughter for enduring the madness of a mom that's working crazy hours, nights and days, and her dad as well. So thank you, Katie, for always understanding when we had to do things at weird days and times and nothing was ever normal in our household. And so I just think, and my boy, I got to recognize my boys, Luca and Lorenzo, my grandsons. I'm just very thankful. Thank you for this board for instilling the confidence in me to lead such an incredible department, and the commission for the Dispatch Emergency Commission. Staff at Stanislaus Regional 911, you are the best of the best. I'm so proud to work with such a great group of people, and I'm just truly, truly honored. I thank you very much for this recognition. This county gave me a great life, and I am so happy and thankful to be here, and I really appreciate being recognized. Thank you all so, so much. Jody, it's been fun. I worked with you since day one. I remember when we were both little kids. You came in to visit the Collins Center as a kid with your aunt. So Jody and I go way back. Anyways, thank you very, very much.
Yeah, I think we're going to get a picture here real quick. Can we get a picture?
Oh.
If any family members want to come up, you can come up and take a picture too if you'd like.
I'll try not to.
Mr. Chair, can you indulge me for a minute? Yeah, just for a minute.
Okay, and Vito, go ahead. You want
I just wanted Wendy to be on her way down so she couldn't respond. You always get the last word up here, right? So, Wendy, I had the pleasure of sitting on the board for a little while, along with now Buck Condit, Supervisor Condit's on there. But if you spend 5 minutes, everyone got a snapshot of her gregariousness. She's full of life. People like to be around her. If you sit down for 15 minutes, you'll know her life story of growing up in Hillmar, and her dad with the Christmas tree farm, and all the other things that really are associated with her. But from a county perspective, as you may or may not know, we're running a very high vacancy rate countywide, and especially in the skilled positions. And it happens to be about 16%. And the 911 Operations Center, it's probably a little higher than that. There's a lot of pressure out there just because it takes a long time to get someone up to speed. And so there's challenges. And when you're in charge out there handling the stress, if you don't have what Wendy has, the ability to overcome, it'll be a super stressful job. I told her today, and this is a complete compliment, it was a joke, but I said, "You look 10 years younger already?" And she said that her blood pressure is down already. So it is, I wish you the best in retirement. It's been such an honor and a privilege to have known you, and thank you for the job you've done for us.
Thanks, Vito. Okay.
Oh, hold on, I got something.
Oh, go ahead, Buck, sorry.
Thanks, Terry. Wendy, thank you for everything you've done for the county. It's been a privilege to work with you on the JPA. Not only I got to work with Wendy in my past life on the fire engine, and hearing her calm voice on the radio really brought comfort on those critical incidents, and I just want to thank you for that. And I told you this before when you first announced that, be proud. There are people still walking the face of this earth because you answered their call. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Buck. Okay, Wendy, congratulations on your retirement. Enjoy it. Okay, we're going to move on now to our item 3.2, which is an update on valley air quality efforts by the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District. And Samir Sheikh, Executive Director, is going to do that presentation.
And don't expect me to say those nice things about you. I'm just kidding.
Good morning. Good morning.
Wow, that's a rough start, huh?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to the county board and the public who's all here, and congrats to Wendy and the family there. And thank you, Pastor, by the way. That was actually a wonderful invocation this morning. Just wanted to recognize that as well. Thank you for giving me the time to be here this morning. I wanted to share with you some air quality information, give you some timely information around some available resources as well. And first, I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to be here and spend a few minutes with you this morning. And I wanted to say Supervisor Chiesa is a great board member, serving as your representative on our board. It's been a lot of work. I know that Supervisor Chiesa, and talking to him, reflecting with him about the work that we do, it's very complicated work at times. It's so important to the Valley in terms of public health and our residents, and really just making sure that everybody feels empowered to be a part of what we're trying to do in terms of achieving cleaner air. So I always just have so much appreciation for the work that the county does, and having great reps like Supervisor Chiesa serving on our board and providing that local guidance in terms of our operations and what we do. So I just wanted to recognize him for the great work that he does, the leadership that he demonstrates. He's vice chair this year, by the way, and is doing a tremendous job in that role. So thank you. I just wanted to give you some quick information. Let me see if I can get this to work. There we go. Thank you, sir. First, before I even jump into the air quality piece, shout out to the county. I actually lived in Turlock. Full disclosure, when I was about 5, I definitely have strong connections to the county and just the great community that you have here. Had some family business in Delhi as well. So it feels like home every time I'm up here, anywhere in the Valley, but in particular coming up to the Stanislaus County. It's just a great place to be. A lot of family connections here, and raising 2 daughters here in the Valley. So it's just so important for all of us to talk about air quality and where we were, where we are today, and where we're going. Because obviously there's a lot of attention that goes into talking about air quality, and the reason we have an air quality problem in the Valley is this image that you see up on the screen. We have some geographic challenges and meteorological challenges, weather challenges that really make our efforts here that much harder in terms of everything that we do in reducing air pollution is exacerbated by these exact conditions that you see on this great satellite image of the Valley, where we have the mountains that surround this region. Is basically a bowl with a lid on top for big parts of the year. In the wintertime as well as during the summertime, you get weather conditions that really trap air pollution on the Valley floor and actually lead to the creation of air pollution with a different mix of air pollutants that are in the Valley. We also, and you get this question a lot, I'm sure, here locally, we also get transport from the Bay Area that does impact the northern part of the Valley. So we actually have probably the most unique and most difficult challenge from a geographical perspective, from a weather perspective, anywhere in the country. And that's why you hear a lot of conversation about air quality. That's why we're working so hard as a region to try to do everything we can to address this issue. We're also a major freight corridor, and this graphic illustrates just all the, this is a traffic weighted map of the 99, the 5, and all the major corridors that exist in the Valley. This freight activity that is so important from an economic perspective, when you think about agriculture, when you think about the ports and the role that this Valley serves in helping goods move from internationally through the country, from within the region, out to market. It's those same freight activities that often cause major challenges throughout the year. I'll give you an example. Trucks are the single biggest source of air pollution in the Valley, but we also know how important that sector is in terms of economically. So it is a major challenge in terms of addressing what is the single biggest contributor to the Valley's air quality problems, which is freight activity, in particular heavy-duty trucks. And that's really just a good image characterizing the levels of activity that you see in the Valley. Now, what causes air pollution in the Valley? It comes from a lot of different sources. It's not one single source that is the main issue that we have. I talked about trucks. We have a lot of cars. We have a fast-growing population. Vehicles themselves, anything that combusts fuel generates air pollution. We have a large agricultural sector. We have different industries in the Valley. We have oil and gas, energy. manufacturing, processing. If you think about the valley, the 8 counties from San Joaquin County down to Kern County, and the diversity that we have here in terms of various economic sectors, the fact that it is a fast-growing population, even residential wood burning, restaurants, what we call under-fire charbroiling, steakhouses, hamburger establishments, all of these actually contribute to the air pollution issue that we have here. And because it's so diverse in terms of the challenge and where these different sources of air pollution are, our work has to be diverse in terms of the efforts at the local level, state level, federal level, and the creativity and innovation that we have to respond to that geographic challenge that I mentioned earlier. We do a lot of innovative things in the Valley, and I think everybody here, we talk a lot about Valley pride and just how ingenious our business community, our ag community, the residents here are. In the air quality space, there's tremendous amounts of innovation just because of the nature of the problem that I just laid out. Real quick, in terms of the Valley Air District itself, we are an 8-county agency. We're a special district, again, all the way from San Joaquin County down to Kern County. We're the largest air district anywhere in California, about 25,000 square miles, 15-member governing board. We have a county representative from each of the 8 counties. We also have 5 city council members from large and small city councils and 2 governor appointees on our board. And we regulate, and our primary jurisdiction is over what we call stationary sources. These are the businesses, everything from gas stations and auto body shops all the way up to refineries, oil and gas production, the physical sort of businesses on the ground. That's primarily our jurisdiction. Mobile sources, so heavy-duty trucks, locomotives, planes, other what we call mobile sources, those are primarily state and federal jurisdiction. So when you talk about air quality and the various layers, the complexity, and the nature of the issues that we face, we have to work really closely with our state and federal partners, with local agencies to figure out in that very complex environment how we're all going to work together to reduce air pollution and really keep the Valley moving forward with the clean air journey that we're on. And I'm going to share with you some data right now. It is a journey, and it is getting better, and I'll definitely fill you in on where we are in terms of air quality today. So we've been working for many years on reducing air pollution and improving air quality for all of our Valley residents. And just to give you a little snapshot on that. So for those sources that we control in our jurisdiction, we've actually reduced air pollution by over 90% from those sources. Regulation after regulation, other measures, working very, very closely with our stakeholders throughout the Valley. It's been a major effort at the cost of billions and billions of dollars to modernize processes, install equipment at these different facilities. We're going through, even now, working very closely with these different industries to make sure that we continue putting in the latest technologies, the cleanest equipment possible, again, to address that major problem that we have in our region. And it is the most stringent, most innovative program anywhere in the country. And again, it goes back to the nature of the problem that we have here. It's required that level of innovation. There are very difficult federal requirements that we have to meet under the Clean Air Act that have prompted these different measures to be put into place. And so if you're another state in the country and you're looking for ways to reduce air pollution, you start by looking at the innovation that you've seen here in the San Joaquin Valley. And something that we're very proud of in terms of working closely with our various entities to really deploy that innovation. We're continuing to work very closely with them, and I'll share with you a little bit more information about that. And we've made significant progress when it comes to air quality. And that's something that I think, as we look for more investment in this area, it's super important, from our perspective, that we share what you get out of those investments. Have they proven themselves out? Is it worth continuing to invest? And I'm happy to report that you are seeing major improvements. This graphic is a very telling one. So that in 1980, on the left-hand column there in the graphic, that's where the air pollution used to be for this very important pollutant that's called NOx. I'm not getting into the details of that. But it is the primary pollutant for both summertime issues as well as wintertime issues. That's where the emissions and the air pollution used to be. On the right-hand side in 2020, that's what we've reduced the air pollution to over the years, and working again with all of these different sectors. The green sliver, those are the sources that we regulate at the Valley Air District. And as you can see in this graphic, it went from a pretty substantial portion of that total down to a sliver of the total here in 2020. And mobile sources still make up the majority now of the air pollution that we have on the Valley floor, again, primarily due to freight activity. I'm not going to go through a lot of details on these next few slides that we have here. The biggest point that I would just make is if you follow these from left to right, where it's red and yellow, that's where the air pollution used to be higher, back, in this case in 2003. As you work your way over time there, you'll notice that those colors turn more into yellow and green, and we're projecting that by 2024 and by 2025 that we're going to be able to show that significant improvement that we're looking for, and already have seen tremendous improvements over the years. That was for PM 2.5. This graph is for ozone. So these are two different metrics that we look at. One of them is more of a summertime issue. The other one is more of a wintertime issue. So for ozone, which is a summertime issue, the same level of data there. In 2000, you'll notice a lot of red, a lot of orange, a lot of yellow. That's getting greener over time, again, because we're all working together to reduce air pollution from all of these different sectors, to where in 2015 and in 2019, you're seeing actually most of the valley in green with some yellow left, and we're continuing to march towards cleaner air with respect to ozone. More specific to Stanislaus County, just wanted to share a little bit of data with you in terms of where the county is right now. This is related to what we call the daily PM 2.5 trend. This is what we look at on a daily basis for PM 2.5. The dotted lines on there are the federal standards that we have to meet. So there are two different standards, the 1997 standard, the 2006 standard. And going from left to right, on the left there is 2001, when we started really working on PM 2.5. And as you move towards the right, you'll see that the county dips below that 1997 standard pretty quickly. And the county has been below the 97 standard for some time, but we were significantly impacted by wildfires over the last several years, which is why you saw that uptick there in the 18, 19, and 20 time frame, and then back down last year significantly below the 97 standard. So we're actually doing pretty well overall relative to some of the other counties in the valley. Fresno County, Kern County are seeing, they're also making progress, but Stanislaus County is definitely doing quite a bit better than the other counties are, and are just marching towards that 2006 standard and are already meeting the 1997 standard. Then with the annual standard, very similar data back in 2001, well above the standards, significantly above the standards, and saw some significant decreases back in the 2000s, and are seeing even more decreases here in recent years, are impacted by wildfires. Not as much of an impact over an annual average with those wildfires, but definitely still see the same sort of peaks there from those impacts, which I know everybody here, I'm sure, was talking quite a bit about, when we were being overwhelmed, with that smoke. But again, well below the 97 standard and marching towards the 2012 standard there. And then with ozone, again, just a similar trend back in the 80s there, quite a bit above all the standards, and just many 100% over the standards back in those days. So where now the county is meeting the 1997 standard ahead of our 2023 target. By the way, that's next year is our target for meeting the standard. We're actually below that. We've been below it now for a number of years here in this county, and are marching towards the 08 and 15 standards as well. Quite a bit of progress there with respect to ozone. So in addition to regulation, which obviously our sources have had to work with us on for a number of years, as I mentioned before, at a cost of billions and billions of dollars, the Valley Air District, in partnership with our counties, our cities, and our business community and residents, we operate a very diverse and a very well-funded now grant program, Clean Air Grant Program. And this is where I want to spend a little bit of attention and make sure that you, the county board, the staff, and the public who's listening here is aware of these opportunities, because it really is a huge opportunity to invest in clean air technology and to take advantage of quite a bit of funding that we've been able to advocate for as a region at the state and federal level, to generate locally as well. I'm not going to go through all of these here in detail. I'm just going to quickly skim through the various areas that we operate, a lot of different grant programs, everything from agriculture, and quite a few programs in the ag sector, obviously given the significance of that industry in the valley and the many opportunities that we've been working with them directly on. Everything from ag to residential wood burning devices to locomotives, and I'll focus a bit more on where the county board and the cities here in the county can take advantage of some public benefit grant type projects that are actually directly available for the county and for other public agencies in the region. Again, a bunch of different examples of these great programs in the ag sector. One of the big programs that we're focusing right now, given the availability of some new technology, is zero emissions landscaping equipment, both for residential as well as for commercial sector. That's also available for public agencies, and I'll talk a bit more about that in the context of public agencies. But quite a few grant opportunities here. They're all available on valleyair.org/grants. If there's one takeaway from my presentation, I hope that's certainly it or one of them. valleyair.org/grants. Residents, businesses, agencies can go there. It's very easy to use, website, online portals, and this funding is available today, and it's a great opportunity for the constituents here in the county. This is a list, a little bit more of a detailed list of different programs that are available for different folks, whether you're an agency, a resident, or a business. And again, we have about $500 million that we've actually programmed in this year's budget that's available across these different programs. As a region, we've been very successful at advocating for these funds, making the case for the region in terms of the opportunity being here and showing the innovation that it takes to be able to then receive those funds from the state. I'm going to focus a bit on some of the more immediate opportunities that I think are most directly relevant to the county itself and to the cities here. We just launched a program a couple of days ago called the Clean Air Centers Pilot Program. It's a streamlined program and one that would provide funding for establishing a network of facilities where high efficiency filtration would be available. It comes out of the wildfire impacts that most of the state felt in these last several years. The desire to make perhaps some of the cooling type centers or other facilities at the county, cities, maybe at a nonprofit location, potentially serve as a resource as well for residents that may not have the best other alternatives to address what could be some major wildfire impacts. Have filtration available, portable filtration in this case available at these facilities, and really just try to provide some assistance in making these filters available for residents to use during these episodes. There's $90,000 allocated right now to the county through this program, and that would be, again, whether it's county facility, city facility, or other facility that could take advantage of that program. And it's open now through the end of May, so definitely something that you may want to take a look at and hopefully take advantage of. There's a great program called the Public Benefit Grants Program that allows funding or provides funding towards the purchase of cleaner fleet vehicles, $20,000 per vehicle, up to $100,000 per agency. We've seen a lot of law enforcement, parks, other departments take advantage of this program, and it could be a range of different vehicles that qualify. It could be zero emission vehicles, it could be hybrid and other cleaner vehicles. Just a terrific opportunity, and we have every year we have hundreds and hundreds of applications that come through, and it's an ongoing program and one that is available today. You hear a lot about electric vehicles. You hear a lot about the need for charging infrastructure. We have a grant program that's available right now to help offset the cost of installing more charging infrastructure. I took a look at the map for Stanislaus County last night, just curious where the infrastructure is today. You're definitely seeing more infrastructure going up. There's quite a bit in Modesto, quite a bit up and down the corridor. There could always be more, and I think with fuel prices where they're at today, you're probably hearing a lot of interest from residents in considering electric vehicles, especially as commuter vehicles, but even beyond commuting now with the range of the vehicles that you're seeing out there. But in order for that to work, you're going to need to see more charging infrastructure going up to really address the need for fueling. And so this is a program that would help with that transition, and something we're definitely putting a lot of energy into, no pun intended. So I also want to highlight the commercial clean green yard machine program, especially for say your parks facilities or other entities that you work with in terms of landscaping. There is more commercial equipment available now, and some of this equipment is really cool just in terms of the battery range of the equipment, the lack of noise and fumes that say the workers would have to deal with, and just a really positive reaction from folks that are willing to try, some of the ride-on mowers or the commercial mowers. There's a bunch of equipment available today, commercial grade, with battery backups and all that. And it's something I think you're seeing a lot of schools and some of the parks folks and others, start taking advantage of some of that. It's just a great opportunity. We have an emergency vehicle replacement program. This would be for, say, fire trucks and other emergency vehicles. That's actually open today. is something that we're working closely with cities and counties to take a look at and see if that's something that could work for them as well. And then our board recently approved relaunching a zero-emission school bus replacement program, which is a $30 million program. It's coming soon. We're just getting those applications ready and getting it up and running. Definitely want to alert the county to this program. Hopefully the school districts here to take advantage of that. I want to say you probably saw the news on this, but the Modesto City Schools project that recently got some attention, where they ordered 30 electric school buses here in Modesto. The biggest electric school bus order anywhere in the state, a Bluebird electric school buses. So very, very proud of that. Stanislaus County is leading the state actually in thinking about these issues, and there's going to be even more funding available through this program. I want to highlight this one. This is the one sort of, there's many different opportunities for agriculture. I just wanted to spend just a second on this one because it's such a big deal to our ag community right now, which is the phase out of open burning, which I'm sure everybody here has heard about, and is something that we're working on very closely with the ag sector. There's a lot of funding available today to assist growers in deploying alternatives to open burning. And that's everything from chipping and grinding and working it back into the ground, to chipping and grinding and spreading, to other what we call beneficial reuse. The funding's available today. It's $100 million that we actually have available throughout the valley to support these different cleaner alternatives. And it's something that we worked very hard on with the ag community to make sure it was in the state budget last year so that we had it available to support this transition over the next couple of years. And so if anybody has any questions about that, if you have friends in the ag community who are really thinking about these issues and could use that support, this program's available, and it's got even more funding in it if you're a small grower, and there's some extra add-ons and enhancements in there as well. It's a very high demand program right now. It's something that we're seeing used throughout the valley. I won't spend much time here. Just wanted to note that we work very closely with our schools in all eight counties throughout the valley and their cities through the Healthier Living Schools program. I want to introduce Jamie Holt, who's with me here. She's our Director of Outreach and Communications and a great travel partner as well. Helped get me up here this morning. She's responsible for that program and many other things. But it's a terrific partnership that we have with our schools. We work with them to let them know about air quality conditions. We help them with curriculum. We help them design tailor-made policies, however the school can best integrate air quality into, whether it's sporting or other activities. So just a terrific partnership, and we have well over 1,000 schools. I don't even know what that number is up to today, Jamie, but it's like 1,100 schools that are partners in this program. So a terrific opportunity for us to work closely, hand in hand with our schools, and actually the only program of its kind anywhere in the state. And other parts of the state look at us very closely in terms of how do you build partnerships like these to really empower our schools to think about air quality. And I will wrap it up here. How can residents get involved? I'm not going to go through this full list here, but I am here to really just continue sharing information about the progress that we're making, how we can all work together to improve air quality. There's a lot of different ways that residents can get involved in doing their part as well to help improve air quality. Sometimes very, very basic decisions, daily decisions that you can make in terms of vehicle use, landscaping equipment, other residential burning, and looking for cleaner alternatives. So I'll just leave it at that. And again, valleyair.org/grants. A lot of great funding opportunities there. And lastly, where are we at today in terms of priorities? We're going to continue efforts to reduce air pollution. We work very closely across all of our sectors to look for innovative ways to make this happen, and we're always looking for new ideas and partnership opportunities. We provide excellent service to our residents, our businesses, our public agencies, and others consistent with our public health mission. We're a very important agency in terms of permitting, and we play a huge role in really supporting the valley transition to cleaner technology, but through excellent service. And that's something we take a lot of pride in, but we're always looking for opportunities for making that better. And making sure that we don't have any issues with our federal Clean Air Act obligations, which could have major consequences in our region if we're not able to meet these standards. There's potential risk of transportation funding being lost or sanctions being levied by the federal government. So it's a very important topic and one that we work very hard on to make sure we meet those obligations. So we seek fair share reductions and funding from the state and federal governments. I'm sure you've heard these themes before at the county level, and the Valley works very closely together to advocate for these needed resources. Partnering on a lot of the new climate air quality initiatives, there's quite a bit of funding being made available, and we want the Valley to be positioned well when it comes to sustainable agriculture and other major initiatives that are going on right now. And then working with our Valley communities, our board has an environmental justice strategy. We work very closely with our communities and really understanding their concerns and trying to assist in addressing those concerns as best as we can. And then, of course, strong public education and outreach, which is part of why I'm here today, because we can't get anything done if we don't have the support of our residents, if they don't understand why we're doing what we're doing, and really have them involved in being a part of the solution and being empowered with the information that they need to be effective in that. And with that, I will conclude my presentation and turn it back to you, Mr. Chair and board members, and happy to take any questions or comments.
Very good, Samir. Thank you very much. Any questions for Samir?
Samir, where would someone go if to check the air quality on a daily basis? I know there's many sites, but where would you recommend?
Great question, Supervisor. So we have an app called Valley Air. If you go to the App Store or to the Android Google Play, it's available, and it's not the only information now, though. And so EPA has an app called Air Now as well, which is really great, especially during wildfire conditions, because they bring in some other data that is really helpful to understand where the wildfire impacts might be. But you can actually, there's so much information available right now, but those are probably the two places I would point to just from an air agency perspective. But there's you can actually go to Siri right now and ask your phone what the air quality is, and you'll get some level of data. But those were the two apps that I would recommend.
And I know at our last board meeting we talked about there are many sites. Some of them are a compilation of home devices as well as the air district or CARB zone stations, which are continually monitored and checked on a regular basis. And I think that was the more information the better, but making sure we get good information on a general high level. Are we penalized for the wildfires?
That's a great question. First and foremost, we're penalized from a public health perspective. So and everybody knows that. Smoke comes in, everybody feels that. Under the Cleaner Act, there are some policy pathways for addressing those wildfire impacts so that the region's impacts when it comes to Cleaner Act compliance are minimized or you're not impacted as it relates to wildfire impacts. But it's not an automatic process. There's a lot of work that you have to do, a lot of science, a lot of technical evaluation to ultimately prove yourself out of those impacts when it comes to Cleaner Act obligations. But it is something that we look at very closely. We actually have an air quality science team and you mentioned the air monitoring. They're a lot of the same staff. What they work on is really trying to understand how much of those impacts that we're seeing are wildfire impacts, and how do we then demonstrate to EPA so we minimize some of those impacts to our sort of report card, if you will, in terms of where we are with the Cleaner Act obligations. We do a lot of work to try to minimize those impacts, but it's a tall order, and especially when you think about it in terms of weeks and weeks and sometimes months of impacts, the level of work that you have to do to really evaluate that is very significant. So this is something that we work on now on a year-round basis to make sure that we're really trying to understand those impacts.
I don't have any more questions. I'll just have a comment at the end.
Okay, very good. Any other questions for Samir?
Okay, really quickly, I just want to go back to Supervisor Bill O'Brien. Spent many years on this board, along with Kristen Olson, great representatives of Stanislaus County, kind of through those years of major reduction. When I took this position, the first year was chaotic for me, and if it wasn't for Samir, I probably wouldn't be still sitting there. It takes so much time and effort to try and learn the nuances. Very, very confusing. Other than to say that it's really about balancing the needs, because there's the environmental justice side. You've got businesses that are we're pushing off cost share, although there's grants to write down some of that. I know we've been successful in the county and our Public Works Department in receiving some of those grants. At Stancog, we just did an EV station where the right locations would be, so that when we ask for money, that the public, it's the easiest access for the public. So there's a lot of things coming. But you talk about big changes like the open ag burn and not being able to control the mobile sources. It makes it really difficult to get down to this bottom. Again, cleaned up the air more than 90%, and we still have to do another 90% cleanup. So it's difficult. I wanted to tell one quick story. At our last board meeting, I was chairing, and the member Lewis, a councilwoman from Los Banos was here in the Modesto office. We're talking about the bus program, the $30 million, $400,000 per bus. And as I'm chairing the meeting, I look over and she's doing this. And so as soon as I'm done saying something, I mute and I say, "What are you doing?" She goes, "I'm texting my superintendent." And so everyone was texting their superintendents of schools to try and get in line because it's first come, first served basis. And Roberts Ferry has an electric bus here in this county, the first operational. They have one, Modesto put in. Again, that was a different funding source, but there's limited, if you think about how many school buses need to be replaced, it's a limited amount of money, even though it sounds like a lot of money. So everyone's trying to get their folks to get on top of it because we need all of this money spent as fast as we can because we get the benefit, the air quality benefit. So I always think that Supervisor Wither's always telling me to be a servant, and Deborah and I are trying to nudge each other out to get the money for our county or our area. So a lot of competition, but there's a lot of money available. I think you put it up, valleyair.org/grants is where you can go see. There are so many grants available for different efforts. And I just want to thank you. Again, 2 years COVID, there's been a lot of opportunity to get out and talk about all the good things. Those maps, the depictions of the color, the heat maps tell it all about the real improvement in Valley Air. Today, as I'm driving in, I can see the coastal mountains. Beautiful day. And there's a lot of days in summer when you can't see them. So thank you very much, Samir and Jamie, for coming and giving us a report.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, I'm just going to, real quick before we wrap this up, thank Vito for his work here. First, we kind of try to divide things up here. There's just too much for all of us to do, and we all pick our areas that we specialize in, and we kind of divide and conquer, and we look to each other, whoever's in charge of that area, and we look for them to guide us up here on the board. And when this one came open, as Kristen retired, we knew how much time was involved in this, and we so appreciate that Vito has stepped up and taken this over, because it was just, it's overwhelming, all the stuff, and for you to do this, we so much appreciate all you're doing, Vito, for this. So thank you very much. And Samir, thank you very much. The presentation, very, very thorough, and looks very good as far as the progress we're making. We very much appreciate all the hard work you're doing, and we look forward to having you come back here and keep seeing that line go down.
Thank you so much again for your time, and always available if you ever need anything. Feel free to reach out directly to me, and thanks to the public as well for all your hard work.
Thanks, Samir. Okay. Very good. We are going to move on. Ruben is coming up. We're going to move on to item 3.3. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we're going to start this off with a presentation by Ruben Imperial. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Withrow, Board of Supervisors, County Council Bowes, and CEO Hayes. I'm Ruben Imperial, and I'm the Director for the county's Behavioral Health and Recovery Services. And I'm here to seek the board's proclamation for May 2022 as Mental Health Awareness Month in Stanislaus County. And I'm not here alone to accept this proclamation. I've invited leadership from our community's mental health, our broader mental health continuum of care. So I'm going to recognize them before I go into my presentation. I'm going to ask them to stand momentarily and recognize them and that they're here. And then after my presentation, I'm going to invite them up to the front here so we can take a picture and accept the proclamation. So first of all, I'd like to acknowledge from the Health Plan of San Joaquin, Dr. Lakshmi. She is the Chief Medical Officer. Thank you for being here today. Thank you. From HealthNet, the Vice President for Medi-Cal, the regional lead, is Nye Kasich. Superintendent Kuykendall was not available to be here today due to another event, but he does send his regards and support. I also would like to recognize Dr. Nunes Pineda. She is our Prevention Services Manager and our Community Relations Manager and leads these efforts for our department. And I want to thank everyone here today that is wearing green in support of Mental Health Awareness Month, in case some folks are wondering why so many of us are wearing green today. So the proclamation is to reaffirm the county's commitment to understanding mental illness within our community, to ensure that we have access to mental health services for our community, and to let individuals know that if they're experiencing a mental illness, that they are not alone. And one of the key aspects or the key strategies for us through Mental Health Month and over the next several months, as we consider our strategies and work together to address the impacts of COVID-19 and other mental health concerns that we know that are emerging or are here with us, is to ensure that our community knows how to access mental health care. And I have shared this before with you. I have shared this slide with you in previous presentations, explaining that when it comes to the mental health services or the mental health continuum of care, that there is what we've got from prevention, early intervention, and treatment. And that when it comes to mental illness, there are mental illnesses that are what we call mild or moderate, all the way to severe. And for the majority of our community, when they are hearing messages about Mental Health Month, when they're hearing messages about taking care of your mental health, the majority of our community is going to fall within the mild to moderate spectrum, especially if they're trying to deal with life circumstances and having trouble with their mental health. And so we're going to pay attention over these next few months to ensure that our community is well aware that when they're experiencing a mild to moderate mental health condition or concern, that they know where to go and they know who to call. And we've also used this slide to show that when it comes to treatment, that the county's mental health system is primarily responsible for those illnesses that are on the severe and persistent mental illness side of the spectrum of care. What that means is that the mental illnesses that the county mental health department, the primary populations we serve are those individuals that are in an emergency or in a crisis, as well as a severe mental illness, where that mental illness is seriously affecting their daily life in ways where they're having trouble holding a job or maintaining relationships or housing, things like that. And having that understanding within our community is important because at times when we talk about accessing mental health care or we share with the community the importance of reaching out, they at times don't know where to go. So one of the things that we're going to do this next several months, and I appreciate the partners that are here today, we're not only here today to receive the proclamation. Over the last few years, we have been working very closely to build up this mental health continuum of care in our community, all realizing that each one of our organizations, and our organizations serve thousands of people throughout the year, we all need to work closely together to strengthen what we call our mental health continuum of care. And on this slide here, you'll see that when it comes to the mild to moderate mental illness or those areas for early intervention, that our managed care plans, our schools, and our commercial health plans, these are organizations and healthcare organizations that are primarily responsible for providing that level of mental health care. And as you go over to more crisis or treatment, county mental health services are primarily, especially for Medi-Cal beneficiaries in our community. So when we talk about May is Mental Health Month, when we're talking about access to mental health care, this is the mental health system within our community. It's not just county mental health, it is other partners within our communities that also provide mental health care. So how do we go about accessing mental health care? For instance, as I mentioned, the majority of the individuals that hear these messages or are experiencing some initial mental health concern in their life, they would benefit from simply pulling out their benefit card, looking on the back, and identifying that number where you call for all your other health care needs and ask for mental health treatment. And that's our message today, that's our message over the next several months, is that if the goal here is, especially if we can reach folks in that mild to moderate phase, early intervention phase, if we can get folks reaching out through their health care, through their schools, through their employer, getting mental health treatment early on in that mild to moderate phase of the mental health condition, it's going to prevent a good number of people from going into the severe spectrum of care. That's our message today. And at times people don't realize it's as easy as calling your local health plan, your health care provider, and saying, look, as with all my other health care needs, I do need some mental health care here today. So over the next several months, we have a team here in Behavioral Health and Recovery Services that will be going out into our communities, our broad network of communities, whether it's our promotora network or the diverse community partners that we have, and we're going to be sharing this information and educating individuals on the information here you have on your screen. If you are beginning to experience a mental health concern, you can call your Medi-Cal Managed Care or your health plan and get those services through there. You can call our access line. We also have a county crisis line that is for individuals that are in a crisis that need some immediate support. And then we also will be promoting our suicide prevention hotline. All of these resources are available to our community, and this is the work that we're going to be doing through Mental Health Month as well as over the next several months as well. So this is an important message that we will be getting out through our community, and we want to thank again our partners for being here today. I will say that when it comes to the partnerships we have in terms of the work of strengthening the continuum of care, over the last few months, we have also been meeting and working together on how we put out these messages to our community as well. So whether it's BHRS or our managed care plans or our health care plans in Stanislaus County, we are all aware of the messaging, we're all aware of the communication, and we are all working together towards this end. So that's my presentation today. I'll stop and see if there's any questions. If not, after that, I'll invite up our partners here to accept the proclamation. And I'm also going to ask if, when we take the picture here, if you all could stand up, so when we take the picture, we could all see the green ties and post it on Instagram, which that's what this is about too. So.
That's perfect. Very good. Thanks, Ruben. Okay, any questions for Ruben?
If you could just address, because there's been a large influx of money into the mental health side from the state government, about the recruitment, retention, trying to get enough people to do the service. Because I think, you ramp up programs and then there's an expectation that program is sitting there waiting for folks today. I don't even know exactly what it is. I know we've had some discussions just preliminarily about it. But.
I think one of the primary county interests we have right now is we've been educating and working locally with legislators and at the state level about just increasing overall capacity of our university systems locally to train more clinicians. There is a large number of clinicians or students that are applying for mental health clinical programs, and because there is no slots available, that they basically turn them away. So there's not a lack of interest in going into mental health care. There's a lack of our universities being able to educate all the folks that want to go into them. In addition to there's also other things that the state is doing regarding incentives around scholarships and stipends and programs along those lines. And I will say all those partners on the screen there today, we're all in the same boat. We're all going after the same number of clinicians that are graduating every year. And one thing that would greatly help us if they were increasing the number of graduates from those mental health programs.
Thank you.
And Ruben, you can talk a little bit about what we're trying to do at Stanislaus State. Aren't we trying to make some effort to help fund, to some extent, some instructors down there?
Yeah, we're basically, we've put several funding requests out from the state to the federal level to increase both the department's capacity and the university's capacity to place more interns in our public mental health system, and that would open up the university to actually add more academic slots. That's one of the first phases. It's just one of the big challenges is getting placement opportunities for all these students to do their internship. And if we were able to increase that capacity first, that could open up to 30 more slots for students on a given year. And we're also right now considering just adding more, teachers and more programming space for students as well. But those are the two things that we're currently working on as well.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to come down there and maybe...
All
maybe come up.
right. For those that I mentioned your name, if you could all come up and take a picture with us and accept the proclamation. Not to take a picture, it's accept the proclamation. So. Oh, and I also want to recognize and thank the probation department, the sheriff's office, and the Modesto Police Department. They're also participating in our May's Mental Health Awareness Month as well. So.
Okay, before we start the picture here, get everybody up here. All right, we have a crowd. This is perfect. So first, thank all of you for being here. We very much appreciate for everybody being a part of this. And especially Health Plan of San Joaquin, HealthNet, we appreciate very much that you're here. SCOE, I know that they're not here. They're a part of this too. And just to emphasize what Ruben's talking about with regard to the mild to moderate, just how crucial that is. You know, we talk about prevention, right? It's all about, our focus on prevention is all about trying to catch these things before they become bad. And that is just so crucial now. We think of county health, as Ruben has said, as it's severe, and we get involved when it's severe mental illness. But if we could catch before, when it's mild to moderate, then there's so much savings there in dollars, and then savings in people's lives too, right? And people don't have to go through that. You know, one of the things I think that is great about what's happening in our mental health industry at this point is the stigma is disappearing. And that's just amazing, because we know how for years it was mental illness, there was just a stigma attached to it. But as we know, life is hard, and we all have issues, right? I mean, we all have issues. And it's some of us don't have that safety net. You know, there's so many people out there that we all see as we go out and work within our community, that the people are by themselves. They don't have somebody to work through what's going on in their lives that day. And it's crucial for them, especially in our disadvantaged communities, our Medi-Cal providers, for that mild to moderate treatment. If that's available, and we let them know that that's available, these individuals can then reach out and get help when they don't have family and friends close by to help them. So so proud of all the work all of you are doing, and there's so much more we can do. But we think we're making great progress here, and we love Ruben's our superstar here, and all of you are superstars in what you guys are doing. And so I ask you to continue with your efforts, and know it's so much appreciated. Know how much everybody in this community appreciates all that you're doing and what a difference you're making in the lives of so many people. So thank you all for being here, and we were happy to proclaim this Mental Health Awareness Month. Okay, pictures.
Where are the guys? Let's go to Where are you going to? You're not going to stand here? We're going to stand away. Kevin, is Kevin coming? You're not coming? Kevin's coming.
Okay, you guys ready? One more. Hey guys. I got you, and smile. I'm gonna do one more. Got it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys very much. We will move on to our public comment. This is a period of the meeting where anyone can come up and speak about any item that is not on the agenda, and we try to limit it to 5 minutes. And I do have one speaker card here, and then even if you haven't filled out a speaker card, you can still come up, and we will start off with Zach Gervon. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. There's an agenda item on there. Right? You can still come up if you'd like. So. Okay. All right, we'll wait till we get to that one. So then that's the only speaker card that I have, but that's for an item. Anybody else would like to come up? Seeing none, okay, we will move on to our consent calendar, and I think we have one item on item B4 that we need to make a correction on. Jody?
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman Withrow. Just a slight correction. At one point over the weekend, we did have an incorrect version of item B4 posted online. There was just one small correction, and I just want to clarify for the record, and it is corrected online and has been for a couple days now, that the last sentence in our fiscal impact for item B4, which deals with bilingual compensation, it should read, as to the increases in management bilingual pay addressed in this board item, retirement rules govern the status of bilingual pay being compensable for purposes of an employee's retirement depending upon their date of hire. So that is, the correct version is posted, should be in all of your board member packets, but we did have an incorrect version. I just wanted to make sure we flagged that. Thank you.
Okay, very good, thank you. So is there any item, any consent item anybody on the board would like to pull, discuss? Anybody from the audience like to pull any other consent items? Seeing none, bring it back to the board and we'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Very good. We will move on to our public hearing. First one is item 6.1, approval to reschedule the public hearing from May 3rd, 2022 to May 24th of 2022, the meeting to consider approval of fiscal year annual action plan. So I think for that, do we do a quick little presentation? Angela, good morning. How are you?
Good. My apologies, since it was a continuance, I wasn't sure I was speaking on that.
That's okay.
We're asking for a continuance because HUD has not yet released the allocations, so we think it would be best to have those allocations before we move forward with approval, so it's just a request.
Very good. That's just to change the date. Anybody have any problems or questions on that? Seeing none, we'll look for a motion.
Motion to reschedule meeting from May 3rd to May 24th at 9 a.m.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Angela. Okay. We'll move on to item 6.2, approval to reschedule public hearing from May 3rd to May 17th to consider an ordinance to establish new fees for the sheriff's office related to local emergency medical service agency. And Richard, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and Mr. Hayes and Mr. Bose. Richard Murdoch, Stanislaus County Fair Warden. So the process for the fee schedule has not yielded sufficient time for our appropriate collaboration with the hospital CEO, so we're asking if we can reschedule until May 17th, 2022.
Very good. Okay, any questions of Richard? Manny?
Ready to make a motion?
Okay.
Reschedule.
We're ready to go. Okay.
I'll do all the heavy lifting this
Very
morning.
good. We appreciate that. If no questions, and it looks like we're ready for a motion.
Motion to reschedule meeting from May 3rd to May 17th at 6:30 p.m.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously. Thanks, Richard. Very good. Okay, now we will move on. I think, do I need to close our meeting and go into the sitting as the successor agency? Yes, you do. Okay, all right, we're going to close the Board of Supervisors meeting, and I'm going to reopen the meeting as sitting as a successor agency to the Stanislaus County Redevelopment Agency. Call the meeting to order. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, we have no consent calendar, or we have consent calendar, approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the July 28th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Then we'll move on to item 7D, approval.
This is approval of minutes of July 28th, 2015.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're just accepting the minutes.
Yeah. I know, sorry, Manny, you weren't around there. But you were probably watching the meeting that day. Okay, very good. All right, very good.
He's in high school.
That's right. Okay, we'll move on to item 7D, approval of resolution authorizing the sale of tax allocation refunding bonds by private placement. Angela, good morning again.
Good morning, successor agency board members, Mr. Hayes and Mr. Bose. I'm Angela Freitas, the county's planning director, and with me this morning is Sam Groves, the planning department's deputy director of finance and operations.
The item before you this morning seeks the approval and authorization to refund tax allocation bonds, which were obligations of the former Stanislaus County Redevelopment Agency. They were used to fund infrastructure projects in the communities of Keys and Salida. On July 28, 2015, the successor agency board approved and authorized the refunding of the bonds. However, the refunding was postponed due to outstanding litigation between the California Rural Legal Assistance, CRLA, and the Department of Finance. While the litigation was unrelated to the bonds, the litigation had the potential to adversely impact bondholder security, and as such, the refunding was prevented from being completed. The litigation has since been resolved. Joining us this morning to provide the technical support for this item are Dan Cox, Financial Advisor with K&N Public Financing, and Vanessa Legant, I apologize if I mispronounced her name, Bond Counsel for Straddling. At this time, I'm going to turn over the presentation to Mr. Cox, who will be providing a tax allocation refunding overview.
Very good, Dan. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine, thank you. Good morning, members of the board, Mr. Hayes, Mr. Bose. I'm Dan Cox, K&N Public Finance. We're the financial advisor to the successor agency and the county for this transaction. The item before you this morning is a refunding of two outstanding bond issues. A 2005 tax allocation bonds that was issued to fund the Keys storm drain project. That bond issue was originally issued in the principal amount of about $15 million. It's been paid down over the years. There's about $8.3 million left, and that bond issue has an average interest rate remaining of about 5.37%, and it has a final maturity of August of 2036. The second issue is a 2003 tax allocation bond issue that was a USDA loan for the Salida storm drain project. Originally issued in the amount of $4.5 million. There's about $3.2 million remaining outstanding with a 4.25% interest rate and a final maturity of 2041. And when we say tax allocation bonds, it means those bonds are secured solely by the tax increment collected by the successor agency. It's not an obligation of the county's general fund or other sources. Both bond issues are currently callable. They can be redeemed prior to maturity at no early redemption premium. And both issues were sold without a credit rating at the time they were issued. So currently, the county and the taxing agencies can generate significant present value savings by refunding those bonds. The bond issue size in the upper right-hand corner would be about $10.5 million, and that together with existing reserve funds that had to be funded for the prior issues, which will not be needed for the refunding bonds, those two sources will be used to pay off the old bonds together with the interest to the redemption dates, which is about $11.7 million. And then the only other item to be funded would be the cost of issuance of the refunding bonds of $235,000. If the refunding is approved this morning by the board, the savings would actually be locked in. These figures I will go through are not estimates, but would be these savings subject to approval. The refunding bonds would have an all-in true interest cost, total interest cost of 2.83%, and that's made up of an interest rate on the refunding bonds of 2.46, and it takes into account the cost of issuing the refunding bonds on an annual percentage basis. The total principal and interest savings over the life of the bonds would be about $4.2 million, but since we're using the existing reserve funds to lower the size of the refunding bonds, those would not be available to pay debt service at the back end, which they would be with the existing bonds. So we adjust the savings for use of those reserve funds, bringing the number down to about $2.6 million. And that translates to annual savings of about $180,000 from fiscal years 2024 to 36, and then it drops down to about 44,000 in the last 5 years, and it drops because of the credit of the reserve funds from the old issues. Now, those savings are to all the taxing agencies, since all the taxing agencies contributed tax increment to redevelopment funding. By law, the residual taxes that would be increased get distributed to the taxing agencies, of which the county would be about 12% of these figures. Finally, the key measure we look at in evaluating savings is the net present value savings, and that just brings the annual savings into today's dollars, and it does take into account the use of the reserve funds and all the cost of issuance. So it's a net number, and that is about $1.88 million to all the taxing agencies, and that's about 16% of the amount of bonds refunded. And just as a gauge for bonds that can be called immediately, a lot of policies, including the counties, has a 3% threshold. When you're at that point of a bond issue, a 3% savings threshold folks tend to proceed with on that basis, and this is 16%. So next slide is just the detail of the cash flow savings. It shows on the left the existing debt service of both bond issues, the credit of the existing reserve fund to debt service, and some earnings on it. To the right is the refunding debt service. There's no reserve fund credit because it's being used to downsize the refunding bonds. And one note, the refunding bond maturity will be 2036, since the USDA loan is fairly small, shortening the maturity. Still generates savings, and it'll result in some administrative savings those last couple of years. So just a little bit about the process. We evaluated, when this refunding got geared up again, two methods of selling the refunding bonds. One is a direct purchase method, and a direct purchase is where the bonds are sold directly by the agency to a single institution for its own account. The other alternative, which we did not recommend, was a public offering, where the agency brings aboard an underwriter who purchases the bonds for resale to investors. And while a public offering in some cases can result in lower overall interest cost, it's really not the case here. And in large part because it takes longer for a public offering to be put together and brought to market, in large part due to an official statement that needs to be prepared and approved by the board before bonds can be marketed. So here, with the direct purchase, we were able to get savings locked in and present you a final number, whereas with a public offering would be probably 3 or 4 weeks away from locking in savings. And with the direction of interest rates, it would be a significantly lower savings had we pursued that path. Finally, in March, we went through a competitive selection process. A request for proposals went out to about 20 institutions that do these purchases directly from public agencies. We got 4 proposals. The winner was J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, who bid a rate of 2.46, and that was substantially below the other 3 institutions. The current environment, while rates have been going up pretty significantly this year, it's still a good time to be doing a refunding. This graph shows a municipal bond index called the 20 bond index. Over the last 20 years, it's averaged about 4%, and we're still well below that average in spite of the uptick in rates this year. So just a couple of points on recent actions and next steps. On February 9th, the county's debt advisory committee unanimously approved the recommendation for a direct purchase. And similarly, on February 18th, the county's community development committee unanimously approved the direct purchase recommendation and proceeding with the refunding. This morning's action is to seek the approval from the Successor Agency Board of the refunding. And really, other than just some logistics and finalizing documents, the next step would be the closing and delivery of the refunding bonds, which we expect to occur in 2 weeks on May 17th.
Thank you, Mr. Cox, for the overview. One thing that has changed since 2015 is the need for the successor agency to approve a debt management policy prior to completing the issuance of the refunding bonds. The policy must include the purpose for which the debt proceeds may be used, the type of debt that may be issued, the relationship of the debt to and integration with the issuer's capital improvement program and budget, policy goals related to the issuer's planning goals and objectives, and the internal control procedures that the issuer has implemented or will be implementing to ensure that the procedures of the proposed debt issuance will be directed to the intended use. A draft policy is proposed as attachment 2 of the successor agency's report, and approval of the 2022 bond resolution, which is attachment 3 of your report, also approves the debt management policy. The recommendations before the successor agency this morning are to approve a resolution authorizing the sale of tax allocation refunding bonds by private placement, authorizing the execution and delivery of a term sheet, amending resolution number RA 2003-767, authorizing the issuance of the 2003 tax allocation bond, and authorizing certain other actions in connection thereto, and authorizing the chair of the successor agency to the Stanislaus Redevelopment Agency to sign the resolution. With that, that concludes the presentation, and we're available to answer any questions.
Very good. Thanks, Angela. So just real quick, it sounds like it would have been more beneficial if we could have done this a couple of years ago, just as the interest rates have taken off. But we were in this litigation, and that was preventing us from making that move at that point.
Correct.
But it still sounds like a great deal to be able to do this. It's confusing, the term refunding the bond. I keep thinking this is refinance, is basically what we're doing, but the refunding sounds like we're giving something back here. But I get it. So, okay, any questions? Anybody have any questions for Angela or Dan or Vanessa?
Appreciate it.
Okay, none?
That's
Okay,
good
so then do we, I think at this point, do I have to open a public hearing for this or not?
Yes.
Okay, I do. Okay, we will open the public hearing. Anybody from the public like to discuss, come up and address this? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing, bring it back to the board for a motion.
It's great news. A motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you guys very
Thank
much. Okay. Okay, now we will adjourn the successor agency meeting, and then we will open back up to the Board of Supervisors meeting. This is great how much I get to hit together. Okay. All right, we're back as a board, and we will move on to item 8.1, discussion item, approval to terminate the collection of the community benefit contribution fee. And Tara, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Are those supposed to be distributed? Oh.
Okay. Good morning, Chairman Withrow, Supervisors, CEO Hayes, and Council Bowes. I'm Tara Chumley. I'm with the Chief Executive Office, and I oversee the county's cannabis program. So I'd like to start with a little bit of background of the county cannabis program. That in December 2017, the Board of Supervisors adopted a conservative allowance strategy to allow commercial cannabis businesses. The intent of the board was to provide a revenue source to fund the county's enforcement strategy to remove the numerous illegal cannabis activities in our community. Revenue from the permitted cannabis businesses continue to support this enforcement strategy. Commercial cannabis business applications were accepted twice, once in March of 2018 and again in August 2019. Through public hearings, the board began to approve commercial cannabis businesses in 2019. To date, the board has approved 26 businesses, which includes a total of 40 licensed cannabis activities And these activities include retail, distribution, manufacturing, laboratory, cultivation, and nursery. Today, 18 businesses are active and 4 are in development stages. Additionally, since approval, 4 have been canceled for various reasons. Each approved business enters into a development agreement with the county that has a term of 5 years. One of the primary components of the development agreement is the payment of a community benefit rate based on the licensed activity. The community benefit rate collected provides funding for the county program administration and enforcement of illegal, unpermitted cannabis activities. Another component of the development agreement is the community benefit contribution, which provides a mechanism for the industry to give back to the community. The funds collected will be distributed to local charities, community programs, and public projects with a primary focus on youth. When the board first adopted the allowance strategy, it was important to them that the industry give back to the community in which it impacted. At the time the program was developed, charitable organizations were hesitant to accept contributions from the cannabis industry since it was not federally legal. The county program included the development of a grant program to allow the community to receive funds. The community benefit contribution fee is collected to provide funding for programs and projects that benefit the youth in our community. County staff is working with the Stanislaus Community Foundation to establish parameters of the grant program to include nonprofits serving Stanislaus County who are focused on youth, nonprofits that participated in the Youth Empowerment Blueprint process or are currently involved in the Youth Empowerment Alliance, and schools and community youth programs where an improved commercial cannabis business is located in the unincorporated area. Another component of the program is a community public project. The Stanislaus County Parks and Recreation Department provides opportunities to support the intent of this program by offering recreation programs throughout our community. This includes, but is not limited to, a mobile recreation van filled with recreation equipment such as basketball, frisbees, jump ropes, that could be driven to different locations and provide scheduled youth recreation activities. Additionally, monthly events could be scheduled at different parks during the months of June through October that could include food trucks, ice cream socials, and various youth activities. The balance of the Community Benefit Contribution Fund as of March 30th is approximately $1 million, and the fiscal year 22-23 requested proposed budget includes appropriations for this program, which includes funding for Parks and Recreation in the amount of $250,000 to support youth recreation activities, and the balance of over $700,000 to fund the grant program. In working with the Stanislaus Community Foundation, they have put together a tentative timeline to develop and administer the grant program. Throughout the summer, the evaluation committee will be established, application design, program criteria, and a secure online portal will be developed. The grant program will be promoted in September. Grant program application submissions will be received during the month of October, with Zoom office hours being offered to answer applicant questions. The committee will evaluate applications and select final recipients in November, and a final report with recommended grant awards will be submitted for the Board of Supervisors in December 2022. For those interested, please watch the County Cannabis Program website for updates. The county has received several requests from approved commercial cannabis businesses to review the current fee structure. Staff recommends terminating the collection of the community benefit contribution fee beginning this calendar year and establish a new program that keeps the original intent of the industry giving back to the community. Staff will develop a new program that will include a menu of options to support nonprofits, community and substance use education, good neighbor opportunities, and annual financial contributions or proportional in-kind donations to various charities within Stanislaus County. This will allow the cannabis industry to give directly back to the community. Annual inspections will verify participation compliance in this program. Staff recommends that the board approve to terminate the collection of the community benefit contribution fee for fees due beginning in the calendar year 2022 through the expiration of the recorded development agreement, and authorize the Chief Executive Officer to amend the community contribution program. And with that, I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Very good. Thanks, Tara. Any questions for Tara? Seeing none, we will then open this up to the public here, and I do have some speaker cards that we'll start off with now. Zach, come on up. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Chair Withrow, members of the board, CEO Hayes, Mr. Bose. I'm Zach Trevon, local cannabis attorney, before you in support of staff's recommendation to terminate the community benefit element of the existing development agreements. This much-needed relief, as proposed, comes at a time in which the cannabis market is in a state of severe distress. With overproduction and oversaturation present statewide, prices and consumer traffic at retail have plummeted over the course of the last year, with wholesale pricing also in a precipitous decline. Nearly 4 years ago, local industry members stepped forward into this program, working through the county's application approval process in good faith in the effort to gain legitimacy and stability in this newly legalized, newly regulated, and yet uncertain path. With fewer businesses to compete with both locally and statewide and higher pricing underlying the foundation of our revenues, the commitments made through these development agreements, although very costly, were palatable in light of initial business forecasts. Moreover, based on the pragmatic, collaborative, and fair posture the county took in its engagement with existing businesses in the development of regulatory standards and initial administration of the application process, we gain confidence in our prospects and continue to push forward now in our goals of achieving mutual success in the establishment of regulated operations and eventual impacts against the black market with whom we compete in the best interest of the county at large. Even with the significant learning curve we all were under at the time, the lessons learned since then could fill volumes. Whether it be technical considerations and costs related to ongoing facility development, increasing competition from both licensed and illegal businesses throughout the state, increases in state taxes, or the long, devastating ordeal of the COVID-19 pandemic, we, the regulated cannabis pilgrims, have taken the arrows and have carried the burden of taxation, regulation, and do not take lightly our obligations of accountability to you, our county partners, which is why we come to you now, hat in hand, asking for your consideration and assistance in approving this item as an initial step forward to level the playing field, putting us on par with any other business. Despite these hardships, I'd be remiss not to mention that in addition to these obligatory financial contributions to the community administered through the county, certain operators also worked with the CEO office and Office of Emergency Services in sourcing and offering PPE to those on the ground fighting COVID-19, as well as offering our facilities to warehouse surplus PPE and frozen meals for the elderly at no cost to the county. Through these types of in-kind non-monetary contributions, we can continue to make a positive impact while also being responsible and accountable to these businesses themselves. Through the positive collaborative relationship we've developed during this time, we've managed to survive, and with the launch of the annual inspection program several weeks ago, we will continue to work with the county to meet our obligations and commitments moving forward. But we need your help. With the relief presented, if approved, and with hopefully more to come at your discretion, we will be able to allocate funds to finalizing facility developments, affirming all of our conditions of approval, and increasing the viability of both the businesses themselves as well as the county's program. We appreciate the opportunity you've provided, as well as your consideration to aid us in achieving our mutual success. With that, I thank you for your time and ask that you vote to approve the termination of the community benefit contribution in anticipation of a more feasible and latitudinous structure in light of these current circumstances. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Zach. Okay, next up we have is Mark Ponticelli. Mark, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How you guys doing?
Good, thank you.
Let me start by saying thank you to the staff. They've been amazing. I couldn't thank you enough. I gave you a handout. I'm just going to run through a couple key points. Exhibit A shows how much we paid in the store between 2019 and 2021. Exhibit B shows a comparison of other local rates Exhibits C and D show pages from HDL reports for 2 different jurisdictions stating that the local tax rate in Stanislaus County should not exceed 7.125, with 4% being recommended. The last page shows the last 6 months P&L for my store in the county. We paid out of pocket about $114K in Q4 2021, and would have to pay about $129 out of pocket for Q1. Let me just go through this. All right. Yeah, we overpaid by $100K last quarter. That reduced the amount of inventory we were able to purchase, which had a snowball effect and caused our sales to go down. This is detrimental when we are competing with operators selling product at cost. Here's why. The state assumes that we mark products up 80%, so they require us to pay excise tax up front, so we can't lower our margins more than 80% to compete with the operators outside of the county that are selling things at cost. We're paying taxes on money that we didn't make. Our bill this past quarter is $186K. We only collected 65 at the register. Sales are dropping. It's just not feasible. We simply don't have the money to afford it. No other business in the county is overpaying taxes as much. This is a new industry, and this is a trial pilot program. Modesto is now the heart of the cannabis industry. This is the cheapest place to buy the highest quality cannabis. Everybody from LA and the Bay Area knows this is the outlets of cannabis. After all the vetting that we've gone through as operators, you guys did a great job. I can vouch for all these guys. They're all decent operators. They all are above the board. We all give back time, money, effort, energy to our community. We make sure our customers are safe. There's no issues. Now we're asking your help. We're being overtaxed. It's just not sustainable. And the sheriff is doing an awesome job fighting the black market. I follow his Facebook page. I see all the busts they're doing, but it's just simply not enough. They're killing us. The secret sessions are still going on. They're seeing 1,000 people a weekend. I mean, I wish I could have numbers like that with no taxes. It's just, it's really tough to compete. So thank you for your consideration. I thank you for your time.
Hey, Mark, before you leave, the secret sessions, explain.
You know, there's black market sessions going
Okay.
on in the county. You know, they operate on social media. They give out blasts, and they'll see 1,000 people in the weekend. You know, I wish I had numbers like that.
So they'll show up at some location and buy. Okay. Very
Thank you,
good.
guys.
Thanks, Mark. Okay. Next up, we have a tour, Jason David. Good morning, how are you?
Good morning, guys. How you guys doing?
We go by Jason, right?
Seen you guys for a few years now,
Yeah.
fighting, you know, I was on the forefront. So the first thing I'd like to say is thank you, Tara, for dealing with me. I always have a lot of questions. I bother her a lot. So first things first is I got into this industry from my son. My son is Jaden David, the first child on television to ever use medical cannabis. We treat 1,700 children now. When I first started off, we were doing good. There's 3 stores in the county and city, and now there's, 15, 20? Huge companies. We started off with nothing because I had nothing. I have been fighting for children without a voice. Today I saw you guys cheering on the mental health awareness thing. My youngest patient that comes to our store is 7 weeks old. We have, in the last 2 months, we've had, I'd say 23 kids in between 12 to about 17 trying to commit suicide on most of those pills that they're actually prescribing. All those have depressants, and that's what's really mental health too. Let's be serious about what's really going on with these medications. So my goal is to help people heal, not treat people. And the last 3 years, 4 years, things have gone downhill. We used to have support groups for our veterans every single month. I had a chiropractic school from Pleasanton donating chiropractors to my store. We'd have them next door, and we'd have laser therapy for them. We'd feed them. We helped them get off pharmaceuticals. It was a great place to heal. Over COVID, we had to shut it down. It killed us. A lot of the patients have been suffering. They're in isolation. They're getting worse and worse again. I don't have the money to help them anymore like I used to. We had to sell our series store to pay our taxes to survive in Modesto, and my family escaped from the Middle East because of the things that were going there, and we thank God for this free country in the United States of America. But here in America, I think it's very un-American being overtaxed, but not just that. In our agreement that we had to sign, we cannot sell our store, and we're at a point where we've been so handcuffed that we are drowning. And I have a son with special needs that needs lot of different stuff. I don't do your medical, typical stuff, so I can't afford his therapies anymore. I can't afford his doctor's visits to his natural paths. I can't do anything anymore because we've overpaid in the last 2 years $600,000 to this county of what we've signed the agreement of collecting 8% tax and giving a lot more. And it's drowning us. We're having a hard time. The hardest thing for me now is I was always a yes man. There's never been a patient that's ever come to our store and said, I cannot afford the medicine. Can you give it to us for free? I've never said no once. But I'm at that point where I'm really going to have to soon. And it hurts the most is when there's a single mom or dad with a kid that's suffering, that's dying, and I can't afford to give them medicine for free. And with your help, not just with this, with every aspect of this business, we need to relook at the whole thing, because I think it's very un-American that we can't move, we can't sell, we're at a point where we're about to lose everything. I'm worried about not just everyone else I've been able to help out, I cannot be able to help out my son anymore. And I'm his only hope. And it's not just my son, but it's every other parent. This week I had a parent come in this week, his son had his surgery, the mom got on the son's drugs, and the mom left because everyone's battling depression. When a child is sick, the whole family's sick. We all suffer. So the mom stole the kid's drugs and started using the drugs herself. The dad came to me and said, hey, I need medicine, can you give it to me for free? I've been doing it for 2 or 3 months, not just for him, but they've been telling each other, other patients are telling each other, hey, he's helping. I'd love to help, but can you guys help me help? And that's what I need. That's what we need. We need to be able to get back on track where we used to be. Our sales are down 60%. We're in a really bad location where we're at, and it's very hard to compete. When you have everyone else, not just in the city limits, but everyone else around us are collecting 8% and giving 8%. Each quarter I'm collecting 50 to 65,000. I'm giving you guys 131, 136,000 now a quarter. We're upside down 60, 70 grand a quarter. We have lost in Modesto for the last 2 years, and we're about to go out of business. I came in here fighting for children without a voice, and not just for children without a voice, but for people that were sick, that were going the wrong direction, that weren't healing. We've seen the success, not just from CBD, but cannabis and how it works. The government has patents on it. I know the science behind it. I've worked with some of the best doctors around the world. I haven't been involved in 3 different documentaries for no reason. I did this because I believe in it. It's changed my son's life. I got him out of a wheelchair. I got him to start walking and chewing and comprehending. And if I could see it happen to my son, I might be doing something right. And that's why my impact on other people, I want to be able to help other people. But if I can't help other people because my hands are tied, I feel like a failure to people, because the first thing that doctors call me and saying is they can see other businesses dropping out, even other companies that have oils and different stuff that are helping out children. They call me and say, please don't go out of business. I got about 6 months left, and we're going to be out of business. And we're the last hope that with an honest company that's never gave up on our families and children given medicine. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anybody else? That's all the speaker cards that I have. Is there anybody else that'd like to speak on this? Come on up. Good morning, how are you?
Good morning, Board. Good morning, Karen. I'm Michael Fantazzi. I own MDF Farms in Patterson. I'll keep it short. Jason said it all. Mark, Zach. The industry's struggling right now, and just asking you guys to vote in favor of terminating the community benefit fee, because we're doing everything we can. We're trying to compete with the black market, and it's just not working out in anyone's favor right now. So we're just trying to do everything we can to save this industry and keep going in Stanislaus County and provide safe product for consumers. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Michael. Okay, anybody else want to come up and speak? See none, I will bring it back to the board for further discussion, comments.
Can I just ask Mark a question really quick, if you don't mind? These black market events, pricing difference on a percentage?
It's huge, you know.
I mean, is it the tax, the cumulative tax, the 30, whatever, 30%?
Absolutely. I mean, you can buy a pound on the black market for $1,000. Us, we're paying $3,000. You know, just at wholesale, and then when you got operators selling it at wholesale, there's no margins. It just makes it really tough.
Okay.
And I'm sure if we all got in a room together and sat down, I mean, I'm sure all of us have some great ideas to help tackle the black market, you know.
But it's not just the black market,
Yeah.
it's the gray market. Yeah. Have licensing, you're still doing stuff illegal.
Appreciate it.
And being protects our name is good, and we're not doing that.
And it's, the stuff on the black market is being grown here, you think, here in the county? Where do you, sorry.
You know, the Valley supplies most of California. All the growers for the black market live here. For LA and the Bay Area, they're all here.
Okay, up and down the valley.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Mark. Okay, any other questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair. As we have heard today, and as we well know, our legal market is in a free fall, and a lot of it is due to the black market, and I do commend our sheriff for doing a great job. I know we just had Green Week last week, I believe, where we got some raids and some busts, which is wonderful. I participated in that last year. But I do agree with a lot of the speakers today. Obviously, we need some readjustments, and not just on this. I am in support of this today, and Tara, thank you so much for your presentation. But an overall kind of revamp and a reconsideration of our development agreements, and even take a closer look at what Modesto is doing. I do think Modesto is fairly doing it right, and I think as long as we continue to be persistent and kind of moving the needle, I think we can hopefully get back on the right course. So thank you again for today and coming and voicing your opinions.
Thanks, Chance. Anybody else, Manny?
Yes, thank you so much for the presentation. I wholeheartedly support, and I think this was a discussion we had many, many months ago about creating more parity with our other communities in the area. I had the privilege of, when cannabis got rolled out in the city of Modesto, I was the chair of the ad hoc committee, so a lot of the things that were put in place in Modesto were things that we worked with the industry to make it feasible. But obviously, things have changed over the past few years. The black market, as much as we're trying to do what we can as a county, as the sheriff's department. And then the other thing is just similarities between other communities. I think as more and more shops opened up, it didn't mean that you had that many more buyers. It just meant you had a limited amount of buyers, which is still a good amount, but now you had more options. And so that just brought down the numbers for the people that are existing or doing business the right way. So for me, it's a concern because 10% of taxes of zero is still zero. So if we're taxing at a rate and businesses are going out of business, that's a huge concern. So I would ask my colleagues and staff, as much as you guys have already done, how we can continue with this business and treat it more like other businesses in the community. I think there's liquor stores, there's other businesses, hotels, whatever it may be, and sometimes I think the cannabis industry, because it came out as a very lucrative industry, everybody felt that it was a cash cow and you could tax it, and the state thought that, and the municipalities thought that. But now we're realizing we're up against the black market that's just cutting costs. I mean, you just said if it's costing you $3,000 on the wholesale and $1,000 on the black market, and that's a change of 66%. Just easy numbers, and obviously you get a more credible product. Not that I've consumed, and but I can just imagine the scrutiny that all of you put in putting that product on your shelf, making sure it's safe. Whereas in the black market, I don't think it goes through that same scrutiny because they're just there to make a quick buck. Obviously, if you're breaking the law in other aspects, you don't mind breaking it in other ways as well. So we need to kind of accommodate people that are doing it the right way and doing it where it's safe for the people that do consume. So I would just look forward to further conversations in the next few months, sooner than later, because it'd be a travesty that businesses that are trying to do good in this community with the product that they're selling, that they're going out of business. So, but today's a step in the right direction. I think it allows for them to participate, benefiting our community, and not just being a fee, but more of something that they're giving back. And obviously on your annual inspections, you'll be able to convey and display the fact that you've been giving back to the community, which many of you have. That sometimes it's things that you do during the pandemic. I know a lot of you did things that aren't just easy to put in a percentage or put in a dollar amount, but it shows what you do in the community. So I commend you for that as well. So thank you to staff for bringing this item forward, and hopefully in the next few weeks or months we have further conversations on this matter.
Okay, thanks, Manny. Anybody else?
Sure. So this item today is probably irrespective of the overall problem, just generally. This is something that will help in the short term, but I think, again, we need to go back. Development agreements were the quick way. Everyone agreed to them early on because it was the quickest way we could get there. We're going to have to put a tax on the ballot so that it reflects actual, I mean, that's really where the relief comes. And on a daily or quarterly basis, you'll pay less. And now under the development agreement, they're just not easy for us to adjust, and I think you understand it. So again, I think we need to push towards November, putting a tax on the ballot for the unincorporated area. I know we've preliminary had some of these discussions for a long-term solution, and we can set the tax rate, we can move it when and if we need to. I have to remember, because this weekend, or last week, I went out with the Sheriff's Department on a couple of the busts, and there's no shortage. You know, I think the value was put at $55 million, and that was $1,000 pound process, which it could be a lot higher if it leaves the state. And we have to remember, as revenues go down, we're going to put less money. I think we've got about $2.5 million dedicated to the Sheriff's Department. There's 6 different, 5 deputies and a sergeant, as well as overtime, some of the overtime for these busts. And we'll lessen that. That's just a fact of life. We have to determine if we're going to spend general fund money in the future to do the same type, because there's an obligation that comes, and we thought this was the best way. I think, you know, I'm preaching to the choir. You guys understand, the more black market that we can take out, the more it legitimizes the business that you do. And it will be more and more difficult, but I've seen that statewide. I still think, and you guys can nod your head if I'm right, but I still think we're the only county, Stanislaus County is the only county of the 8 Valley counties that allows cannabis. Is that a true statement still current? Who is it? San Joaquin doesn't allow it, Merced doesn't. Who?
San Joaquin allows cannabis businesses, just no retail.
No storefronts. Please.
I believe San Joaquin County has 2 approved businesses through development agreements.
On grows.
Yes.
So in San Joaquin County, there is no retail storefronts allowed. There is delivery that's allowed in and around Stanislaus County, as well as City of Stockton. So those regional competitors are definitely impacting our market. And with me standing up, Supervisor Chiesa, I hope I'm not overstepping, but in addition to the termination of the community benefit fee, I think immediate action that could be taken to ease some of the pain that we're feeling right now to keep these businesses alive is elimination of the mandatory minimum payments. So we're paying on a percentage of our revenues, but in the development agreements as they sit right now, there is a mandatory minimum payment that invariably exceeds the percentage revenue that we're obligated under. So in your discretion, that would be something that would be much appreciated. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Are we talking like a payment plan? Would that be kind of the?
You have, so we're paying 8% on retail gross revenues, but there is a baseline number that it is, you are paying at least this number or 8%, and the 8%,
okay,
the mandatory minimum is invariably higher. So that's something that I would ask for, and although it's not agendized, it would be, I think, appropriate. Thank you.
So I think, again, just on a go-forward basis, we have to at least start working towards the tax. We can have those internal discussions. I think that I'm assuming we're in agreement that people should be paying what their sales are based on. I mean, that's a fundamental fairness. But I'll remember back to 3-4 years ago when we had these initial discussions, there was enough money floating around that anyone would agree to anything to get what they considered a golden ticket, or however you want to look at it. And the situation has changed, no doubt, and it's again, anywhere in California you have the same problem. I still think that, us taking the step of allowing storefronts and allowing, 3 of you weren't on the board at the time, but we took a big leap of faith, good partners. I think that I look around and I still think that it's a good partnership. We definitely don't want you to go out of business, because even if we do away with the community benefit, there's still utility and you supporting local businesses. I mean, that's what Gala does in Foster Farms and big business. They support the community they're in. So I think that that's important, that we make sure that you're healthy, and but it's not a freebie, because you pay for your ongoing commitments, not on the minimum payment, not what Zach was talking about, but you are a business and you pay fees based on what it costs us and the other things. So I'll support this today. Again, And I still have to process through on how we, and talk with Tara about how we do away with the minimum payments, because we've had these discussions, and again, nobody's here to get the industry. And it just turned out the development agreements were a little cumbersome. They didn't look like it at the time, but now we see that they're pretty cumbersome.
Okay, anybody else?
When everybody's done. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. I do want to recognize and acknowledge that we are working already to identify some policy changes on those businesses that have reported revenues that are not meeting the minimum thresholds that are identified in development agreements. We do have a few of those identified. We have some strategies that we're putting forward with them. So if you give us a little bit of time, we'll come back and give you some work to consider, not just the board, but for the members of the industry that are represented here today or were unable to make it here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Jody. Okay, thank you guys for being here today and the discussion. And Tara, thank you for this. So this, I guess it doesn't surprise me. When we started this thing, new industry, we're trying to figure out how we're going to do this. And we knew there were going to be issues, and we're going to learn things as we go along through this process. So, and we were kind of making this up as we go, and every city that was agreed to do this, same thing. They're all trying to see how to make this work. And so I realize there's a lot of bobbing and weaving that we have to do to make this still work. And so I think I'm open very much for us to try to figure out how to make this work for everybody still, because we have had good partners. We do appreciate all of you who have played by the rules that we've established. And now if those rules aren't fair, then we need to figure out a way to make this work better for everybody. So I look forward to us doing that, further discussions. And just back to the enforcement side, which we always talk about, and that would help us dramatically. And I know I so much appreciate what the sheriff's office is doing. I mean, they're out there working on this daily and trying to figure out how to address these illegal operations. And so I just wanted to do a shout out for the sheriff. I know they're working very hard to do that. I know now we're going to have code enforcement, hopefully, even for the small little operations out there up and running and working more towards approaching those operations too. That we always think of these giant grows, but all the little grows that are illegal that are all over the place, I mean, collectively have a big effect on what's going on out there. So we really need to ramp up our code enforcement, which I know we talked about originally we were going to do, but we didn't have enough people. So we're getting there. So anyway, all of that said, I'd support this today too, and look forward to us to have further conversations, as Vita says, a tax, if that's the way to get something on the ballot. Anyway, we'll make this work for everybody. We'll do our best. So, okay. I will then look for, if no other comments, a motion.
Motion to approve staff recommendation on the reduction of community benefit fees.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Tara, thank you. Thank you guys very much for being here. Okay, we will move on to our correspondence.
This board has received the claims as noted on the agenda.
Acknowledge receipt of claims and refer as recommended on the agenda. Any Board of Supervisor reports?
I do have just a quick report, Mr. Chair. So this weekend is going to be a big weekend of celebration in District 5. On Saturday, May 7th, we're going to be having the SMBU Cinco de Mayo Parade, which I'll be participating in. I believe you'll be participating in as well. And then on Saturday and Sunday, we have the 32nd Annual Series Street Fair, which is May 7th and 8th, so I hope to see everybody out there in the community. It's a great weekend for District 5 in Stanislaus County.
Very good. Thanks, Chance. Anybody else?
Yeah, I was going to just shout out to Gene Henley, who was an original council member in Houston when they incorporated back in the early 70s, as well as Ron and Jane Martella. They were honored for their lifetime achievement at the Houston Fruit Net Festival this past weekend. These are folks that have been around Houston. I've been there my entire life. They've been around a lot longer, generations, and have really made it a better place. I also touched on, I happened upon one of the cannabis enforcements in Hickman, and then I went out to the Denair. They had an action out in Denair, in the unincorporated area of Denair, and then I was out in Riverdale Tract for a larger one. Code enforcement was there. The ag commissioner was there. You've got animal services. You've got, Public Works, who's doing all the roll-up, but the county resources. And I caught myself at the Denair one lecturing the owners about all of these resources that they've created, this environment where we're spending, I don't even know, I told them $100,000 there, it's probably not $100,000, but to come out and get them and their 3,000 plants, and it just, it's worrisome, but it angers me in some ways, and you know, my wife tells me to stay away because when I get that way, it is just terrible. But going back to code enforcement, I heard a great story when I was out in Riverdale. They'd done a bust around the Ceres area, and you know, you can see the adjoining house has a grow, but they didn't get a warrant, and they need warrants to do it. But the code enforcement officer said she went, knocked on the door and said, you know, I'm going to be back, and I'll give you a couple of weeks. And by the time they got back to the office, the person had abated 90 plants, which was fantastic, no action needed, and the sheriff's department was still on site and walked over and clarified that it happened. So I think there's some, you know, some real synergy with that. Again, it's dangerous. They find lots of guns, but if we just do walk and knocks and leave that, and if we have to get a warrant, we'll get a warrant. But I agree that the sheriff's department is doing all they can, and I think Garth Stapley had written a really nice article this weekend. He was out at the Riverdale track when I was out there, so that's all I have to report.
Very good. Thanks, Vito. Anybody else? Manny?
Yes, so this past weekend, love Stanislaus County, love Modesto, and love our cities. It was great. The kickoff was here in downtown Modesto, and it was great to see that every year the projects, the volunteers, the amount of people at the kickoff just continue to grow. It's one of those days that you just really feel proud of the community that we all reside in. And there was a gentleman out there wearing a T-shirt that said "Free Hugs," so I took a couple more than my fair share. And but it was great bringing my kids out there, getting involved in projects and just cleaning up our areas. So another fun weekend.
Great, thanks, Manny. Yeah, and I too was out at Love Modesto. It was great. You know, what's really great is to see, and I see not only, and we thank Jeff Pishney for all he's done. Unbelievable what he's accomplished with this thing. But the Downtown Streets team out there, and I just always, every time it just warms my heart. Not only, I mean, they were out there at Love Modesto and being a part of it, but also just every day when I drive in the office and I see these individuals out there working on the streets. It's just everything good about what we want to do and how to help the homeless and get these people back on their feet. And so it's just, I continue to be amazed at the work that they're doing and the accomplishments they're making with individuals and getting them back into their lives. So I just want to put a shout out for them. And I'm looking forward to the Cinco de Mayo too. With Chance, we'll be out there, so that's going to be fun. So anyway, seeing no other things, I will bring it back to now our legislative, fiscal, and management report. Our Chief Executive Officer, Jody Hayes.
Okay, thank you very much. Just a couple of notes. So this week is the deadline for bills to get out of committee and move forward. So we're beginning to see which bills in Sacramento are actually going to progress. One of the bills we're watching closely is AB 2201, having to do with groundwater extraction permitting requirements. And we're watching that closely, but that bill was essentially cut in and changed quite a bit. So we'll keep an eye on that. This board did send a letter in opposition of that bill last month. Also want to note that we have met just yesterday, actually, with some of the key staff from Senator Eggman's office to discuss the Care Court proposal from the governor, and had a very good conversation with Senator Eggman's team on that. So we'll see how that progresses. Also would like to acknowledge that there was an award through the Home Key projects that the governor announced this last week. One of the awards in our community is $1.7 million. The applying agency was the city of Modesto, but it was a partnership formed through the STEP program that we have been working on trying to fund and move forward. So essentially we're already seeing, we'll get you some more information on that, but we're already seeing some very quick progress on how they've been able to put their funds to good use. And I understand that the state may want to highlight this particular project in Stanislaus County in the coming weeks. So we'll let you know more about that. And the last thing I would like to do is to just recognize one of the newest members of our team, one of our management consultants, Regina Menendez, who's over here with Jewel War, and she'll be fitting right in, comes to us from the Community Services Agency, and we're just thrilled to have her. So welcome, Regina.
Very good. Thanks, Jody. Okay, we're going to do an announcement here. We will be having what we have been referring to as our roadshow. We're going to be out in the community with a bunch of Board of Supervisors meetings, and I very much appreciate all the hard work that everyone has done, in the clerk to the board's office, Liz, and everybody who's working so hard on this, and Tom, to try to make this work out and not get us in any trouble as far as the Brown Act's concerned. But we will be out, as we've talked about before, we've allocated $50 million to start to go to work in our unincorporated areas of our CARES money, to put that to work in our unincorporated areas where they're suffering from lack of curbs, gutters, sidewalks, sometimes sewer and water. And so we were going to, instead of sitting and looking at a sheet and us trying to decide in a briefing what addresses, what areas to use, we thought it would be great to actually get out for all of us to see in our own districts what each of our districts have, the areas that we think are the most in need. And so that way then we can make our decision based on actually having been out in these neighborhoods and seen these areas, and as we try to prioritize these things. So, and again, the $50 million is a drop in the bucket compared to what we really need. We've talked about that often, but it's a start. And so we will start these special meetings, we're calling them, and the unincorporated area is on Thursday. This Thursday, May 5th, the first one will be in, Riverdale Park, in Fishing Access, and then over at the Iglesia Batista Emmanuel Church. Both of those are in my district. I think we're going to start off in my district. We have the two there. We're going to do two in everybody's district, and so those are going to start at 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock. We'll have those, and then at 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock we're going to do one at Mancini Memorial Park and one at Olympic Southern Mission Baptist Church, which is Chance's district. Oh, I'm sorry, Manny's district. Okay, one's Manny's. Perfect. Okay, one Manny and one Chance. Very good. And the way this will work is we're going to have a bus here at 12:30, and everybody from the public who would like to attend and get to these locations, they can actually ride the bus. You don't have to ride the bus. You can just show up there. And I think all of us, some will be on the bus, some will be driving ourselves to these locations. But the bus will be here at 12:30. I guess we'll probably actually, I don't know if we actually open a meeting at that point, or just, I'm going to let Liz tell me how we're going to do this.
We're going to open our meeting at our first location, which is Riverdale Park.
Perfect.
In Access, and then we're going to recess from that meeting, travel to the next location, reconvene, and so forth till the end of the day. We'll adjourn at the end of the last
final location. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. But for everybody who wants to go, the bus will be here. Everybody from the public, we will have a bus here, and it will leave around 12:30. And so everybody can be on that wants to. So we are very much looking forward to this. This should be great for all of us to get out in the communities and all of us to see each other's districts and areas, and then really help us in our decision process as far as how to prioritize these things. Okay, so that is the announcement for that. And then we are going to then also go into closed session, and maybe Tom can talk about that really quick.
Yes, we have closed session this morning. We have conference with legal counsel, existing litigation. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, Subdivision D1, we have one case to consider, District Counsel number 16 versus Sutter Health et al., case number RG 15753647.
Very good, thanks. And it'll be appropriate to ask if there's any public comment with regard to the closed session. Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.